Well, the numbers always suggest that energy tank is the best choice, but beyond that, I'm going to say wave beam this time. And by the way, good luck to both runners. Looking forward to seeing them run here.
Absolutely. Good luck to both Darko and Alucard. I think this is going to be a really good series. I mean, all the tournament series really lately have been really good series. Feasel doing a good job of getting things synced up, and now the runners running pretty close together on their way down. But
Yeah,
I'm gonna guess. I'll give you your high jump boots. I want to see that high jump boot climb.
Yeah, that's always interesting. As much as I love high jump boots, whenever you get them early, it can actually be a little uncomfortable in a way at the very beginning because you're not used to having them for the climb, and then after that, the Alcatraz is a bit different. So
yeah, Alcatraz definitely is modified. I like the climb a little more, but it can definitely feel weird the first couple times you're trying to do it there. But I guess I'll definitely defer to you when they find the high jump boots. Another item that I've found really inconvenient early on, ice beam.
yeah, I've seen that too.
Do you turn that one off, or do you just suffer?
Typically, I don't. But to be honest, I just haven't really put a lot of effort into. I haven't put a ton of practice into getting it early and then seeing how to adjust things. So I kind of just roll with it. It's kind of one of those situations where you're really happy to have it, in terms of you're happy to have it in your inventory, but you're not super thrilled that you got it so early. But here we got a reserve tank in the ceiling, which Darko is electing to skip. Certainly don't blame him. It looks like Alucard is also going to skip it.
Yep, giving it one try there with the Rio, and maybe he's going back for it. Maybe we just got debated a little.
I think he's going back for the minor. He forgot to go to the right. Oh, maybe he is going to get it. Okay, there we go. I was going to say he's going to have a hard time if he doesn't get those power bombs over there.
Fooled us all, but yeah, it looks like of the few guesses in the chat, SSBM Leo did guess reserve tanks, so he's the witch today.
Darko being rewarded with a super missile pack here. Every time you come over to the left here and power bomb to get that minor, really would like to see a super pack or another power bomb pack. So good choice there.
Yeah, with early power bombs and one reserve tank already down, I like to check both that minor and the Mother Brain missile's location, looking for that second power bomb pack, just making early gauntlet an option.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let's see what we get down here.
And there it is. So
10 power bombs immediately is always a nice thing to have.
Yeah, we'll see if Alucard also picks that up. I imagine that he would after checking that left side item, but we'll see. It looks like he is going for it as Darko begins his climb back up. It looks like the conventional kind of back up the climb, not going to Big Pink and Green Brinstar early, what's been lovingly named the meme route, has kind of been the favored route now. Almost all the runners are doing it this way. And I think that that just generally is a product of just how many more majors you get to check, and then also how many more opportunities you have to find speed booster by the time you get to Waterway.
By the way, 3 major items checked so far. 2 of the 3 reserve tanks. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, this is not shaping up to be the start that the runners were looking for. We got the double Y tanks. And Alucard getting his.
Looks like Darko's going to elect to just head over to the right instead of going up the Alcatraz. And now he's going to head back to the ship. My assumption, would be that he's going to go ahead and check early gauntlet, because it, probably wouldn't make quite as much sense to come back just to refill to get some items, because you know, especially having 2 power bomb packs so early, there's all different kinds of places you can get power bombs from here all the way down to Red Tower. So I can't imagine him not checking the gauntlet by coming back this way.
Yeah, this is dipping out and not doing Alcatraz and just power bombing out those bomb blocks. If you're heading out to the right, not any slower than just doing Alcatraz and going back around, but substantially easier. Much more in line with the intended strats way of getting out of that pit. So,
you know, I haven't really seen too many races where you got double early gauntlets, so this should be interesting.
Yeah, this is a rough spot in the acid here for Darko. He's gonna have to be careful about that. Big health drop is gonna be nice. Oh, it went away. Or no, he was able to pick it up. I thought it despawned there quickly.
Yeah, it was very fortunate for him to get that. Let's see what we get here.
And Alucard going through that same stretch, and just an E-tank here at Gauntlet. And Darko choosing to reset.
Yeah, I'm a little, I guess, surprised by that. I mean, I can understand it both ways, but if you've already come all this way and you've got the power bombs, it wouldn't be, in my opinion, a bad play to continue on and get the 2 miners over there. You see runners check that a lot on the way to Torian at the end if they never find charge anyway. So it'd be like a nice combination of items to already have.
Yeah, my only thought about it is that the back part of Gauntlet here is pretty dangerous. Really easy to take a bunch of damage here, especially in this last section that Alucard's coming up on. And so maybe Darko just decided that it was better to just go with the reset, but we'll see if Alucard remembers Terminator, because did you catch what Darko just found there?
Spring ball.
Exactly, so Darko has validated his run. We'll see if Alucard remembers to do the same here.
Spring ball is definitely one of those items that when you find it in randos, makes you feel a lot better, because you know that you have one of those progression items where, you know, if you don't find high jump boots or some other stuff, there's a lot of different places where you can use spring ball to get to some of the major items. So that definitely is already going to kind of put them at ease.
Yeah, it's interesting. We think of it as a progression item. I don't know that the logic actually accounts for it in terms of progression. I think the only things that are attached to the can fly designation in the logic are bombs and space jump. And I don't know if there's any locations that are particularly accounted for by spring ball, but it does make movement a lot easier, especially if you run up into like a suitless Meridia seed.
Yeah, in particular for me, I think the way I've used it the most is to high jump bootless lower Norfair.
Oh yeah,
it makes it significantly, a more palatable option than, for example, having to like infinite bomb jump if you don't have space jump or something like that. So it's just one of those things where, you know, I guess everybody thinks about randos differently, but every time I find one of those items like spring ball, the first thing I think of is just, okay, what do I have access to now? And so I'm sure that both runners are happy to find that one.
Yeah, it really does open up more of the map than we would normally think, just because of the way the spring ball jump works. I just don't think that that's one of the logic required tricks. So, well, we get a lot of value out of it.
That's really interesting.
It's not something that the logic will require you to do.
Another E-tank. My goodness, Maniacal, we're just not really getting any fun items yet, dude.
We're bound to find them. It just means we're going to have a nice slow seed here, maybe. And I guess I should have known what I was signing up for with you being on commentary.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I feel like the curse has been lifted, because my last race on Sunday was a suitless Meridia race. And so I feel like now that I've... I don't know exactly what my sin was, handing a suitless Meridia runs to all these other guys that I do commentary for, but hopefully I have now repented, and it will no longer happen to anybody.
Well, with 10% of seeds now instead of 3 to 4% being suitless seeds, this will. I think if it's not if you aren't favored to see one today across 3 games, but the odds are okay.
That's true. And I mean, if we counted all the different runs I've done commentary for, I think I'm batting like 40% on suitless.
Which is crazy given the V2.7 logic. But Darko's setting up for his wave gate using the conventional setup, it looks like, not doing the normalized setup. I don't think he quite got it.
You know what's interesting? I almost never, and I just very rarely see this, get to this room with that many supers. That has got to be a nice feeling, knowing that you have a lot of leeway. Like, when you get in there and only have like 3 or 4 or 5, it can be kind of nerve-wracking. So I'm glad that those guys had enough supers to take care of business.
Yeah, this is exceptionally healthy. Just another E-Tank at Wavegate. But yeah, having a good super count is really, really nice into this, especially if you don't want to spend the time doing the slower normalized setup.
Yeah, or if you just can't make it work like me.
But it looks like Alucard got it there 3rd or 4th try.
Yeah, well done. And speaking of the early supers, Darko has 30, Alucard has 25. You know, obviously when we do commentary, I think a lot of the people in chat kind of know, so you know, some of the norms for rando, but just in case anybody doesn't, 30 super missiles is sort of a magic number that you're trying to get to as quickly as possible. And really, in a lot of cases, at minimum, just because that is the number of supers that it would take to kill Ridley without charge beam. And since the supers do double the damage to Ridley, 30 supers is kind of like that magic number you want to have before you try to venture down there. Clearly, you can do it without 30. I mean, you can substitute missiles and power bombs. It's just a lot slower and a lot more difficult.
Yeah, we saw, I think you got to Ridley with 20 supers and like 55 missiles or something.
I did, and let me tell you, I was not.
That was a heck of a fight.
I had to drop like 8 or 9 power bombs, but yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, it was one of the more interesting Ridley fights I've seen lately. But yeah, grappling beam at charge beam, as Darko's showing us, is going to open up this X-ray check by the logic. So that's good. The fire fleas are not ticklish.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And one thing a lot of you guys in chat, if you've been watching a lot of these races, you actually can get to the X-ray item without any of the progression items. Ooh.
Darko taking a little bit of a waiver fall there, just deciding to go for it after one swing with the waiver in a pretty bad spot there. But taking damage, getting back up. If he can dodge the yapping maw here, he managed that situation really well.
Yeah, that was an excellent job by him. Oh no. One other option that he has is he could, if he knows how, he could go to the far left wall and jump off of it and use the spring ball jump. It looks like he's through okay. But as I was saying, you know, it's actually possible to get into the X-ray room without any of the progression items. It's just one of those tricks that's very nuanced, and you know, not every single runner probably knows how to do it. It's pretty difficult. We've seen some of the top guys do it in this tournament so far, but rewarded with a very nice item. Space jump should really open up a lot of things for the guys here.
Yeah, that's one that definitely does open up the ability to fly for Samus in terms of accessing high up items in the logic. So now the runners are able to access. I don't actually know which locations that specifically opens up.
Well, the way I look at it would be it's sort of like a comfort thing, and I realize, you know, as we get further and further into the tournament, most of the runners have all, you know, very similar moves, but you know, for some people who aren't super comfortable, like I know we already have grapple, but space jump will make it easier to get to wreck ship. Secondly, if you have gravity, it makes it easier to get into lower Norfair. You know, if you don't know how to do some of the lava dive moves, which again, I assume most of the runners do, but just in case they don't.
Yeah, which, speaking of, we have a significant route divergence here. Darko taking that space jump find and opting to go up to wrecked ship without speed booster. And
yeah, why don't you talk us through how that is different now than it was in the previous couple of rounds?
Yeah, so the previous logic, the wreck ship reserve location, which is gated by speed booster, was a lower yield location than the rest of wreck ship, but it's been kind of homogenized with the rest of wreck ship now. So while the value of wreck ship overall has gone up, the value of it without speed has decreased slightly. So this is a bit of a gamble by Darko, but I'm not surprised to see him make it, because in all of his previous matches, we've also seen him go to wreck ship. But he actually is probably going to elect to check the first 2 major items and then leave. We've seen him do that in most of his previous races.
Yeah, so before we go a little deeper into that strategy, I just got to say real quick, Alucard at the Spacer location, oh baby, picking up those high jump boots. So again, I think we kind of have discussed this multiple times. High jump boots is definitely not a required item, but one of the more powerful, I think, in the game in terms of keeping things smooth. You'll see players make a lot more mistakes when they don't have high jump boots than they normally would make, just because they're not used to it. So I think that's going to put Alucard in a very comfortable position moving forward. But to Maniacal's point, going to wreck ship early without speed booster is without question a bit of a gamble. However, if your intent is to just gamble and hope that the top 2 items don't have anything good, good anyway, that would require you to have speed, you could simply grab the first 2 items and then jet out of there and actually save some time. So we'll see what Darko elects to do here.
Alucard had the setup there for that quick kill, but just missed firing off that 4th super, but making quick work of Kraid anyway. But yeah, those high jump boots can be logic required for exactly one thing, and that being the Suitless Meridia. We've seen the grappling beam and high jump boots pieces. So if we see ice beam, those are the 3 items that the logic will always give you to signal that you can now go for Suitless Meridia. There are other convenience items, but the runners actually already have those in Space Jump and Spring Ball that can be really useful for Suitless Meridia traversals. So keep an eye out for Ice Beam. That is the last part of the starter kit there.
The last part of the Swiss Army knife that is required for Suitless Meridia.
Exactly. And what else have we got? And there it is.
My good, please tell me we're not about to have another one of these.
I want to call the double suit Meridia right now with how early all these items happened.
If we have a Suitless Meridia with me on commentary again, I am fairly confident that I will never be asked to do another commentary. At least not by the runners.
Well, for your sake and the runner's sake, I hope it doesn't happen. But we haven't had a double suit Meridia yet on stream in this tournament, I don't believe. But a nice fan tune there from Darko.
Yeah, really good job. Even if you have a lot of experience with the game, I think that fan tune with just your power suit is still, can be somewhat intimidating, because if you just kind of mismanage it a little bit or have a bit of a poor performance than normal, you can definitely die to fan tune. So good to see Darko get past that. And now we'll be able to check at least 2 of the items probably, and we'll see what he elects to do afterwards.
Yeah, I see in the chat Elminster mentioning Varia and Meridia Gravity and Lower Norfair, that seed we had from Richmond a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
it
that's
had
right.
that, the Varia Mama Turtle and Gravity Ridley seed. That was real.
For sure. And also, again, I hate to kind of keep bringing this up, but sometimes we end up talking about similar things in each match, just because there could be, new players or people who aren't aware in the chat. But one thing to keep in mind is that, the most optimal route that you can take in a randomizer would be to go essentially to Kraid first, and then be able to do Lower Norfair with Ridley, get Dragon after that, and then go all the way up to wreck ship, where you can defeat Fantoon and then potentially just leave without really having to check much. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that is going to be the most ideal route in every single randomizer. So Darko, if you go to wreck ship early, you're really trying to bank on finding a really big item like a suit. So far, he only found an E-tank. If he only finds another E-tank or, I don't know, something like Spazer here, going to put him in a bit of a tough position because he's probably going to have to really consider whether or not to check those top two items, one of which he can't even get.
I think coming up here without speed, if he doesn't find speed by this point, only being able to do one major for all of the traversal of Attic and the bowling cutscene, I think he's 100% right to leave at that point.
True.
And
oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna probably see Darko leave wreck ship.
And which is, again, it just everything depends. Like, I think a lot of times people will say, oh, it was a good decision or oh, it was a bad decision based on what was actually there. But you guys have to remember that every time the runners are in a race, they're operating with zero information or at least limited information in terms of what they already have. So it could turn out that Varia or Gravity, if it's up here, then it's definitely worth checking. But at least he can still get the information, even if he can't get the item.
So I guess Darko knows that I'm on to him at this point and is changing up his strategy.
Yeah, I guess in some ways it's almost... I don't know. From a strategic point of view, it almost might be a better risk in a way this time to at least go and look and just kind of hope that you don't completely misfire on all of the wreck ship items. So let's see what we get up here.
And,
oh my
wow.
goodness.
So Gravity is gated by Speed. Speed could yet be in Meridia or Lower Norfair with Varia in Meridia.
My goodness.
I don't want to do that to these runners.
Yeah, Alucard, now that we know what is at the wreck ship reserve location, keep in mind that even Alucard, who went a different path, I think he's only checked, two items, just the two crate items, and I guess Spazer as well, so that's three.
He went down and did high jump and ice as well.
Right, so those are going to be, really easy items for Darko to get, but neither one of them have found speed. So speed is either going to be in Norfair, potentially requiring some hell runs, or it could be in Meridia or Lower Norfair. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see.
Yeah, this Darko has enlarged his mini-map and expressing some frustration with that gravity suit find.
Shout outs to my boy Author Blues out there who uses that exact visual icon or GIF or whatever to express frustration as well. So it's a pretty good one.
I don't know the source for that one, but that's a good find.
That is, man. So it turned out that wreck ship actually had two very strong items in it. It's just very unfortunate that Darko can't get the other one at the moment. And you know what is interesting? I should have thought about this earlier. I don't know why I didn't think, but Alucard's not going to be able to get it either.
No, they're both going to maybe find out where Gravity is. Alucard, if he elects to do the attic area, is just going to have to go back the way we saw him come from. Some progression has to be gated behind heated runs in Upper Norfair.
Interestingly enough, given Alucard's decision to go to wreck ship after Craig, and again, he doesn't know this, but just based on the information that we know, Darko actually pathed a little bit more efficiently because he's not going to have to backtrack in the same way Alucard did. For Alucard to get Gravity, he would have had to backtrack to wreck ship twice. So this is actually freeing up a couple of minutes of time for Darko.
Yeah, this is working out in Darko's favor. Just the overall pathing of the two runners so far. So early wreck ship, even though Darko probably isn't very happy with the information he netted, is working out for him.
It's funny how, 2 minutes ago, we were like, oh, Darko's in a terrible place. And then, 2 minutes later, we're like, he's actually going to save 2 minutes. these randos can be very interesting in terms of how things work out and what decisions people make.
Yeah, Alucard turned around from Ice Beam and just went right back up Red Tower. So, and he needs to be careful here with 100 health left, and Fantoon looking pretty green still.
Yeah, this is, like we mentioned earlier, this is not by any stretch of the imagination just a free fight.
Yeah, Fantoon with no suits. The Flames and Fantoon deal 40 damage a pop, and it adds up in a hurry.
Sure does. And I don't think that Alucard backtracked to the ship. Ooh, I don't think he backtracked to the ship to save and to refill. Hence why he, if he'd have come in here with all 6 of those E-tanks filled up, I don't think he'd be having much trouble. But he's got to be very careful, because if he dies here, that could be devastating. He's 1 hit away. Fantoon and the Flames are all going to do 40 damage each with just the power suit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to set up a low enough health to get the guaranteed health drops there, but seems to have gotten out of it. At least has 2 hits to give at this point. So if he can avoid these flames a little, get in a slow pattern, actually kind of nice for him at that point.
I'm still nervous for him. I mean, obviously he's a very good player, but it's incredibly easy to accidentally, mistime a jump trying to shoot one of these flames or something. So hopefully he doesn't have like a mishap.
Yeah. In the meantime, we have Darko over at Kraid. Kraid standing up for him as well.
Double prom action tonight.
Yeah, those are some nice health drops there for Alu. So good to see him just pump Fantoon with some missiles, get him to close up, and we got a little bit of bonus Kraid on both screens. But Alu's in a pretty good spot at this point. Still needs to be careful with his health, but things are going ooh. Oh no.
Oh no.
And that is how quickly Fantoon can turn.
I don't think, I was going to say, I don't think that he went to the ship to save, so.
Okay, well.
But the good news is he's not having to start over.
Yeah, he does have that save from. Was it before he checked? I imagine it was before he checked the Ice Beam location.
Probably so, yeah, definitely.
I think it was Wave?
It was Wave, so at this point, he no longer has Wave, and we didn't say anything about it at the time, but Wave Beam, just sort of in my opinion, take it or leave it, but I think it's a lot more useful than you think about when you're just normally speedrunning the game. It's not until you have to go for a full run without it that you really realize how useful it is in a lot of different spots.
Yeah, not needing to gate glitch blue gates, for instance, is honestly really, really useful. Like if he decides to go down to Croc here, just knowing that he won't have to gate glitch, he's good on health right now, won't need to farm up anything.
Hey, wait a minute. Is Darko about to suitless Meridia? Is he about to just say, hey, I'm not even going to worry about going to get gravity?
He might go up and check Mama Turtle and reset, but I think that he is eyeing doing a gravityless completion because of gravity being gated behind Speed Booster all the way up behind that bowling cutscene.
Oh my god, he's doing it. I just want to say I'm sorry. I'm personally sorry.
He knows you're on commentary, I suppose, and
Jeez, dude. It's like at this point it's not even forced, but people are doing it anyway. My goodness.
Yeah, he's got to be careful here. Everything in Meridia hits really, really hard when you get just the power suit. So.
Yeah, and quick shout out to all the RBO runners out there. It is not difficult to die in Meridia with just your power suit. Those crabs do an immense amount of damage.
Is it 60 or 80 a pop? Something like that? They hit hard.
I think it's like a whole E-tank worth. pretty close. If not, it's at least 80.
And oh, there Alu's finding his speed booster.
Very nice. Was that speed at speed?
I believe that is speed at speed. Yeah, that's very vanilla.
Which means we get a little lava rise action hype here. Well, now the lead that Darko had with Alucard dying, he doesn't know, but with Alucard dying to Phantoon is going to get mitigated by the fact that Alucard will most likely find gravity before attempting suitless, and so we'll make up some time there. Hopefully, Darko doesn't take, too long going through here. But if he elects to go the entire way, one thing to keep in mind, and again, kind of shout outs to the RBO players, is if you don't have a ton of E-tanks, depending on how you're going to try to kill Dragon, like even if you try to grapple her, if she's a little too unkind to you and gives you some really bad RNG on the Spanx or whatever, then she can kill you very easily. So I'm curious to see how far Darko chooses to take this.
Yeah, the save at the bottom below the broken pipe suggests to me that he's looking at a reset after Mama Turtle.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But either way, that death to Phantoon may actually work out very much in Alucard's favor.
This is an incredibly interesting race, all the different scenarios we've already seen.
Yeah, just him going over and getting speed booster, that's going to pay off so big, because okay, good, Darko didn't KO through Mama Turtle. I was getting a little worried there.
I'm calling Varia at Mama Turtle. Oh, not quite, but Plasma's a big pickup.
That is a keep for sure. Charge Ice Plasma. A nice beam combo to have at this point in this game.
So far, Alucard has checked several of the Bubble Mountain areas, or at least one. I think did he check all three already?
I don't think we saw the reserve tank location.
Okay, so basically at this point, Varia can only be at either the Croc location, the grapple location, or at that reserve. Otherwise, it's going to be forced to be in either Meridia somewhere, possibly out of the way. But also, I don't believe. Yeah, they definitely have it. They haven't checked Waterway yet because they didn't have speed until later. So it'll be curious to see if it's there. Who elects to backtrack first?
Yeah, the runners, by virtue of having access to speed at speed and then gravity at Wreck Ship Reserve, Varia could be quite literally any location in Meridia. I mean, it could also be down here at Croc right now. Random is random. This is, the randomizer's not looking to play out some particular progression narrative, but those are locations that are in play.
All right, Alucard making quick work of Croco there.
Yeah. First item is just another E-tank. And yeah, it looks like Darko, with his prize of Plasma Beam, is gonna continue on his way.
Gotta say, that's really interesting. It's the first player I've seen in the tournament just kind of dabble with a suitless Meridia without doing the full thing.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some runners go up and do the Mama Turtle check, but I don't know if we've seen anyone do it suitless and just gamble heavily on that location.
Yeah, especially, I haven't seen the scenario yet where somebody knew where the gravity was and elected to go for it. I certainly don't blame him at all. I mean, he kind of knows that he doesn't know how long it's going to take for him to get speed booster, and so I don't blame him for checking that location, but we'll just kind of have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, we'll have to see what's at grapple here for Alucard. See if Crocomire pays off at all or not today.
Have we had a seed yet? I see it in the chat, and I've had it happen to me one time in a randomizer, but have we seen a tournament seed yet that had Varia at Shaktul?
Yeah, in the pre-round, I think. If not round 1, I think it was the pre-round. I know that Menashne had a seed where Varia was at Shock Tool, and he forced an early Shock Tool via Ice Clip check. And it paid off big for him in that race.
I must have missed that one. But yeah, it'd be pretty interesting to see that occur. Because that ends up being a place a lot of people don't like to check. And, you know, actually, I think I've seen more people check Shack Tool than Plasma, oddly enough.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the meme of it or what, but we saw a Plasma check earlier today, which was nice. Didn't really pay off, but we don't see that room too often. But I don't know if we've seen a Variant Shock Tool in the new logic, is what I was trying to think about.
Ah, gotcha.
I haven't run into it yet in version 2.8. But now I'm curious where Darko is headed. It looks like he's going to go over to Bubble Mountain and presumably find his speed booster.
I was about to say, Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know if we're going to see him head right back up for that gravity suit or not.
Yeah, I was going to say that I would be surprised if Alucard, you know, he knows that Wave is over here. I was going to be pretty surprised if he elected not to grab it. I just think it's, you know, probably definitely worth getting here in terms of all the different things it can add for you. Plus, we know that he's going to find charge, assuming he clears out Wrecked Ship, and then it becomes even more valuable. So
Darko started to go towards Speed Booster, but with low health, not wanting to try and get up to that farming spot and waste time farming, it looks like he's going to take his Wave Beam and go to the pre-Croc refill. We may actually see him go down to Croc before Bubble Mountain.
Man, this is fascinating.
Oh no, he's just farming up a little bit. Okay. I am very interested to see how he chooses to play this.
Depending on what he wanted to do, I mean, I haven't really been faced with this specific circumstance in any of the races, but you know, an option that he could have elected to do is he could have just gone ahead and gone left and gone down a couple rooms and gotten that refill just so he wouldn't have to sit and farm for a long time.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting.
Might would save some time in the long run, and plus obviously lower your variance. So we'll see what happens.
Also choosing to grapple farm here, a little slower than not using grapple. This is not an ideal grapple farm, but it will do the job.
Another thing, you know, it's very sort of niche, but at the same time, you know, I always will keep looking at miners, especially until I potentially get 15 power bombs, just because once you reach that 15 threshold, you at least have the option to Crystal Flash if you need to in certain spots. And when you're doing hell runs, it's actually a way to make it go incredibly faster, because you can basically skip out on one of the farming sessions.
Exactly. That's something that I always like to see, is enough ammo to get a Crystal Flash done if I'm going to be doing variolous runs around Upper Norfair.
Yeah, those minor items can really be important for a lot of different scenarios, not just collecting them and you know, in reference to potentially using them for Mother Brain.
And there's Darko getting his speed booster. And Alucard going back over to Wreck Ship. This is going to work out for him.
Yeah, Alucard now in a good spot to find gravity. It'll just be really interesting. I mean, I can't imagine him finishing Fantoon and finding the two, you know, what we know are going to be kind of worthless items. I think it's a reserve, excuse me, an E-tank at the first spot and then a reserve at the second. So I would assume that he will most likely continue his path up to check the rest of the items as opposed to leaving. So he will be rewarded with Gravity Suit. It'll just be several minutes from now.
Yeah, I fully expect Alucard to go up to the top of Wrecked Ship with speed. Without, I definitely like the call to dip out and not check the top. I think that that's very reasonable because you are only guaranteed to be able to access one major item location. And while you end up getting some information, you spend a lot of time for that information.
That's true. That's a great point. But, you know, you just take the risk that you think you got to take, depending on the matchup.
Oh yeah, it's all about runners doing what they think gives them the best chance to win. And so I know you've focused on this a lot in, you know, how you think about the randomizers and how you think about other people running the randomizers. The item set that one runner needs to complete the game is very distinct from the item set that another runner may need.
Correct.
So while a lot of folks are good on 3 E-tanks, I personally don't really like going into Torian with fewer than 4.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. Also, I mean, it just kind of depends. It works in 2 ways. You know, if you're... Obviously, you never know what's going to happen in these randomizers, but the more sort of tricks and the more things that are comfortable to you, the more options you have. But even with that being the case, if you feel like you're up against somebody who's a lot faster than you, then you're probably going to take some risks just to try to win. But the reverse, if you feel like you might have edge in the matchup, you might take less risks than you would normally, just because you think that you can kind of overcome any kind of time loss and just play it a little bit safer. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly what each runner is thinking at any given moment, but there's a lot more to this than just... I think people lose sight of the fact that this is, even though it's a quote-unquote speed run, I mean, obviously you're trying to get the fastest time, but you're not trying to get the fastest time for you personally necessarily. You're just trying to get a faster time than your opponent. And so that's going to change in every single matchup. So a lot of times people will balance out risk versus reward, because it wouldn't make sense for you to take excessive risk if you're probably going to win running it in a safer way. Really, you just kind of be making a tactical error if you play that way. So sometimes you'll see people do things they wouldn't normally do, but it's because of specific reasons.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm sure these runners are considering who their opponent is, what each of them has been through in the tournament at this point. And I don't know if Alucard's had a chance to review Darko's play to this point, but he may know that if he feels behind after going to Fantoon, he may think that Darko hasn't checked the items up here. And while he would be wrong, and Darko is in fact in the top part of Wrecked Ship right now, it's a very reasonable thing for him to think that his opponent may act as he has shown a tendency to act in previous matches, so you can also game behaviors in that way.
Good point. And I honestly believe we'll be seeing a lot more tactical decisions like that the further we get in the tournament, and the more aware the runners are of each other. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen, going bowling for a second time already with Darko. I always feel really terrible in randomizers when I have to do this more than once.
Yeah, there have been a couple seeds that have required you to go bowling more than once, and it never feels good, even if that's the way the logic is pushing you, and even if it's required, it feels so bad to have to wait through this cutscene twice.
It does, and I gotta hand it to Darko. This is the most entertaining run I've seen yet by an individual runner. He has basically given us Suitless Meridia and 2 bowling sections, and we still don't even have Varia.
Yeah, Varia could be very hidden, deep in Meridia.
see what you did right there. Nice job.
I don't do anything. I see calls already for Shock Tool Varia. I'm not ready to pronounce it so. But getting a little beat up here by the Atomics, but Alucard's making his way through to Attic. At this point, just following Darko. The locations that are left for Varia at this point, all of Meridia excepting Mama Turtle, and then Waterway, I think, is all that's left.
Technically, though, I don't believe, unless I'm mistaken, neither runner has checked the Norfair reserve spot, have they?
Oh, yeah, Norfair Reserve, and I'm not 100% sure on Wave, honestly.
I think Wave was a... I'm pretty sure we checked it. I don't remember what was there, but I feel like I think it was maybe an E-tank or something, but maybe not, though. Guess we'll find out.
Yeah, so Darko making his way back down. We'll see if he goes back into Upper Norfair, if he just goes right for Meridia and commits to clearing that out. But no, he's going right for Waterway, actually.
I agree with this decision. Personally, if you're already this late into a rando and you have no idea, what your opponent's been up to, you probably think, well, for all I know, my opponent didn't have to backtrack twice to get gravity. Maybe I'm behind, so maybe I need to come here and risk trying to find Varia. So I think this is a good call.
Yeah, I think this is a great call by Darko. He's not likely to be this close to Waterway again, and having to double dip bowling cutscene like that, I mean, he can't feel great about where that puts him. At this point, I would say he's ahead, but I wouldn't feel ahead if I were playing this on his
That's
side.
funny. Yeah, I wouldn't either. I would feel very much not ahead, probably, but this just kind of goes to show you never know what's going to happen in these things.
Yeah, he has to feel bad about E-Tank at Waterway there, but it's going okay for him.
I mean, clearly Maniacal, since it wasn't Varia and it was an E-Tank, he clearly made a mistake, right? It's always dependent upon what items are actually there. So if it had been Varia, it would have been a good call, and then since it's not, it's a mistake. I think that's
the prevailing results-oriented logic.
Right.
But Alucard getting his charge beam, getting his gravity suit. It'll be interesting to see if Alucard does this as well, but it's interesting. 48 minutes in, our runners are pretty close to one another. They've both done Kraid and Fantoon, full cleared wrecked ship. They've got gravity suit and a decent beam setup, speed, high jump, space jump, spring ball. So very similar majors.
So I just realized what the most unfortunate circumstance could possibly be here. There's only one item left in Norfair to check that could have Varia. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it mathematically, it wouldn't make sense to go there first, because if it's not Varia, you have to turn around and go to Meridia.
Oh, yeah.
So you would assume that both runners are probably going to exhaust every item in Meridia looking for Varia.
Yes.
If it happens to be that reserve tank that they didn't check, that neither one of them checked, then we're basically talking about potentially having, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, every single major in the game checked if that situation occurred.
I don't think we would see either runner check the screw attack location at GT,
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
but otherwise, that and Firefly, I think we would see runners pass by. But yeah, we might see a 32 location seed.
My goodness. For their sake, let's hope that doesn't happen.
And Sandpit is just the energy tank, so that's 2 Meridia locations down.
And that means that there's really only, 2 left that are sort of on the path that you would normally take. Obviously, everybody's going to get to see Botwin regardless. And then if it's not Varia, I can't imagine them not checking Dragon, like the space jump location. But yeah, there's still 2 out of the way places though with Plasma and Spring Ball.
Unless they find Varia, and I would say and Screw Attack, I would expect a Dragon check just because of how much Screw Attack can speed up Lower Norfair no matter what else you have.
That's true. Looks like Darko now remembering he has charge. Or he might have set it up that way just to get him halfway and then kill him with 2 charge shots, but that was pretty painless there. Let's see if we get Varia at Botwin.
That looked like an X-ray.
It sure did, which I would actually pick up here.
Yeah, I think
For Dragon?
Darko's trying to get the short charge here to go back.
There we go.
Just Dragon left where this is a super useful item. But also can be used for the key hunters in Lower Norfair. So we will get some microwave shrimp hype.
Yeah, at this point, after all this time, look how tight this race is. Alucard is only about 2 or 3, 2.5 rooms behind. And it would be pretty likely that they would take a very similar path, especially if Varia happens to be at the space jump location. Then we know that both of them are going to grab it and then immediately head to Lower Norfair. So at this point, other than a couple of item checks, it could come down to a lot less about routing and just more about execution.
This has been a very interesting race so far. Alucard unfortunately missing on the halfie there. Had the wall jumps, had the spark charge, just gooped the spark. But with space jump, doing Coliseum the slow way, not even that much slower. And a nice microwave there from Darko, stopping as soon as he notices Samus stands up.
Yeah, well done. All right, what's your call, Maniacal? What's it going to be at space jump here?
I think we're getting the last reserve.
I'm going to go with bombs. Oh my goodness.
All right. I think we've only seen 3 of the reserves. I'm bad at counting though, so I think there's a reserve left in the wild somewhere.
Oh, I forgot. It's been so long now. This seed started off with 2 reserves out of the first 3 items, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think we should have known the trolliness of this one immediately.
Yeah, I think I referred to it as a slow one early on. Little did we know. But if you're Darko, I guess you go the vanilla way to Plasma, back down the toilet, and then over to Shock Tool?
Yeah, probably so. It's funny how these randos can turn into fast or slow very quickly, though. I remember the race that I had on Sunday, the second game, everybody was talking about, like, I went back and watched the VOD, and everybody was talking about, like, how free and fast it was going to be. Because we just got so many good items, and then that ended up being the longest one because it required Suitless Meridia.
Yeah, I rewatched a little part of that VOD, and in hindsight, yeah, a lot of the chat and the commentary was a little silly. It was kind of fun.
Well, I can only recall one other race that I've seen in the tournament so far that had Varia at Plasma. I always get kind of excited when a really important item is at Plasma because, as I mentioned earlier, I think this gets checked like even less than Shock Tool. So let's see what we got here. Oh, baby.
There it is. We may not see a Shock Tool check today because Darko has found his Varia suit.
So everybody in the chat, I'm just going to go ahead and say our apologies for not being able to deliver a Shack Tool seat, but at least we got to see Plasma Beam, which is something that we don't see very often.
Not even required suitless. What is this weak seed?
I am now afraid that Shack Tool is going to have the last reserve tank, and that if Alucard goes there before Plasma, oh boy.
I think we might see Shock Tool treated very unfairly by Alucard. But no, it looks like he's going up. Okay. He was just debating us a little with some unconventional routing for Plasma. But we know he will also find his Varia suit. And I expect both the runners to go straight for Lower Norfair, straight to finish up the game.
One quick thing, because we don't get to talk about this. In fact, I think I've only been able to mention it one time in the commentary that I've done. This Plasma room does not get visited very often. And in these randomizers, it's actually quite easy to get soft locked in here. Unless I'm mistaken, there's only 3 ways to kill these pirates to get the door back open. You either have to have Plasma Beam, Screw Attack, or the last option, and I've done this before and it took forever, mostly because I'm not very good, but you can actually get Shine Sparks and kill them, but you have to like hit them with your echoes and stuff, and it's really kind of bizarre. So always be careful when going up there. Make sure you have one of the requisite items or you literally can't get out.
Yeah, so there's a 4th item.
Oh, what else can you use?
You can use Charge Beam.
Oh, you can just straight up use like regular shots?
If you have sufficient energy, you can pseudo screw each of the pirates twice.
Interesting. I did not know that.
You'll take damage, but they will die to the second pseudo screw.
Huh, that's really cool.
But those 4 items are the items required to get out of Plasma.
That sounds infinitely easier than trying to do the Shine Sparks.
You're going to tank some damage that way, for sure. But yeah, it definitely... I like doing a combo of those 2 if I have charge and speed come that room. Especially that top guy is such a pain in the butt to get with the echoes. And the first guy as well, the one on the floor, because you have to get iframes and then short charge through him, or shoot and run through him.
Gotcha. So at this point, we basically have, outside of Spring Ball and regular bombs, we essentially have a old route run through Lower Norfair, because these are the exact items you would have. So speed, high jump, space jump, and then obviously the 2 suits, and then all 4 of the beams. And I guess what I mean is the 3 beams plus charge, because I kind of consider it its own thing. But so we'll kind of see how they elect to use their strats in here. If you have this combination of items, Lower Norfair can move very, very quickly, even if you don't have a Screw Attack.
Yeah, you know much more about Old Route than I do. So I don't have nearly as much experience navigating Lower Norfair with this item set.
Well, the main thing is just Plasma. That's one of the main benefits that I'm thinking about with Plasma whenever I get it early in a rando situation is not only the damage that it can do, but just how much energy you can save by clipping through a lot of these key hunters and whatnot. So makes, like, Screw Attack definitely makes Lower Norfair the safest. but plasma makes it, relatively safe if you have the old route experience, and it's not super difficult. One issue though is Darko's going to need to farm enough power bombs to get back out, considering that he doesn't have regular bombs, but he only needs, I think, 5, so it shouldn't really be an issue. Just hopefully he'll remember. I have seen runners, and even I've done this myself, where I try to exit Lower Norfair and don't have enough power bombs because I forgot to farm enough, and then luckily here though they can speedball out of Wasteland, so it shouldn't be too big of a problem.
Yeah, thankfully, these Violas here in the room right before Ridley are basically, I think, 99.8% to drop a power bomb if you need one and aren't in a ultra low health situation.
Exactly. The only problem is sometimes people accidentally forget that they even need them and they just blow right by them.
Yeah, you just gotta be careful to head up with, assuming you have no other items, so no screw, no spring ball, no bombs, no speed booster, make sure to head up with 6.
We haven't had too many times in this tournament where we get the full old route beam against Ridley, but this is kind of neat to see. 20 charge shots will do the trick. If I recall correctly, Ridley has the exact same amount of health as Mother Brain 2, so both of them require 20 shots each of the charged plasma wave ice.
That's correct. They both have 18,000 HP, and the charge ice wave plasma deals 900 per shot. And so we'll look for Darko to pick up at least 2 power bombs here, and he's done it. So yeah, he's actually going to farm up a couple extra. Granted, he could have gotten out, I think, with the 3 he had if he used his spring ball and also got the wasteland speedball. A little high five here from Darko and Alucard in the Metal Pirates room.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, Alucard is clearly not that far behind, but Darko really doesn't have anything left other than just making sure to escape Lower Norfair without somehow dying, which he's got plenty of health, but, it's not like it's a completely 0% chance. Sometimes you can accidentally mess up and get kind of stuck on the 3 Musketeers and take a lot of damage. They still do 50 a pop, and so do the Key Hunters in this room. But other than that, he's going to have a pretty significant advantage heading to Torian, and given the fact that he already has, full old route beam, I can't really imagine there being too much issue with Mother Brain 2.
Yeah, his health is in a good situation. He's fine to go for stand-up. He's got plenty of ammo, great beams. This is as much of go mode as we'll find most runners.
True. There is only one specific kind of interesting thing that could happen. And I'm always thinking about this in context of old route. Like, you would never have this much ammo in old route, and so even with 6 super missiles and 10 regular missiles, you would just blow right by the ship and head straight to Torian and try to get the drops. So assuming that he does not stop at the ship to refill, which is definitely not a requirement, if he happens to get into Torian and gets latched onto by a Metroid, he won't be able to get it off because he won't have enough power bombs, so he will literally have to reset the room. And the only reason that I know that is because that literally happened to me the other day for the first time ever. So I'd never thought about that until it happened. So hopefully,
was that during the one race?
It was the first race.
Okay, I noticed you backtrack out of the room.
Yeah,
and I didn't deduce that it was
the second race.
I didn't deduce that it was because you didn't have the power bombs at the time. I missed on that. I thought that you just decided that going back out and resetting was going to be quicker than grouping and power bomb killing, or just power bomb killing in general. Yeah,
I walked into Torian with 2 power bombs, and I didn't have bombs, obviously. And so that first Metroid in the very first room, I just shot my ice beam a little bit too early, and it didn't hit him and freeze him, and he jumped on me, and I Like, I even went down and tried to bomb him before I realized that I didn't have bombs. And so I looked up at my power bomb, like I selected it, and I was like, all right, whatever, I'll just power bomb him. And then I realized I couldn't do that either. And so I had a brief moment of terror where I was like, wait a minute, I'm not locked in this room, am I? Because if so, I'm dead. But luckily, I was able to just reset the room and it was fine.
So hopefully Darko doesn't run into the same situation, but he's found 6 power bombs at this point, so I think he's going to be good on ammo. Alucard making his way out, only has 2 right now, but first needs to get through the 3 musketeers. Thankfully, quite a few hits to give.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, especially given how much ammo and health the Metroids are going to drop. I mean, plus, when you have this many miners, which this isn't even like just a ton for a rando situation necessarily, but when you have this many, especially that many supers, you pretty much don't even have to worry about what the Metroids are going to drop. Like, he could literally kill every Metroid, never pick up a single drop, and still have plenty of ammo for Mother Brain 1. You know, having charge is such a nice luxury, so as long as he can get past Mother Brain 1, which only requires 3,000 hits and 18 total projectiles, he should be good to go.
Yeah,
I do have a question for you, Maniacal, real quick.
Oh, sure.
Alucard just got done with Frogway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why are those creatures called frogs? Like, they should be called crickets, right?
I always used to call them crickets, so I'm not the person to ask about this.
You're from the south too, right? Though.
Not natively.
Okay, but you live down here, right?
Right now, yeah.
Okay, so like everybody that I know would call something that looked like that a cricket, and so when I found out they were called frogs, I was just like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the community's coalesced around frogs, a lot like they've coalesced around Franker's Z room for the mushroom room.
Right.
There's a bunch of things that I think we call silly names in this game, but you know, little be it to me to disrupt the flow.
I think we just got to call everything a frog. So here we got Darko making short work of the frogs in the second frog room.
Yeah, some frog, but yeah, we got ceiling frogs, we got flying frogs, we got mother frog.
I guess we'd have to give a shout out to Leo since the frog is kind of his thing, right?
Yeah, it's somewhere between him and Cross Product, I think.
Feels frog, man.
Yeah, with everything being frog.
Oh boy.
Which, I wonder how long it is before we have the resprited Samus in here as Frog.
Now in front of everybody, I would like to officially request that we start calling Gravity Suit Frog Suit. Because it does the same thing in Mario Brothers 3, right? It allows you to swim quickly in water.
It lets you be mostly amphibious, so I agree with that. That's one that I can get behind. Like, it doesn't add gravity. It definitely adds frog.
That's true. Frog suit it is. Facing right. Saving those, what is it, 40 frames?
40 frames.
As someone in chat pointed out, Darko missed out on the frog skip. So he'll refill and then head on down to Mother Frog.
Yeah. Taking the frog refill and skipping the frog refill.
So, okay, a lot of this stuff at this point is just execution and kind of theory, but I do have something that I thought about the other day that I think is like kind of interesting. Basically, both runners have the ability to do stand-up, right? And would even be sort of incentivized to do it because they have all the beams. Like, you know, doing stand-up with only, you know, ice or wave beam or whatever would be kind of pointless, but when you have all the beams, you're kind of incentivized to do it. But technically speaking, assuming nothing weird happens with Darko in terms of him dying to Mother Brain 2, which would be incredibly difficult to do with that much health, it actually would be safer for him not to attempt stand-up glitch. because there's no way if he didn't attempt it and he just ended the game normally, there's pretty much no way that Alucard could catch up. But if Darko somehow went for it and like soft locked himself accidentally, that'd pretty much be the only way to lose. So it's kind of weird to think that something that would save you time would actually be the only way that you could lose in a scenario.
Yeah, it's a weird risk-reward thing, and I know some folks, especially early on in the tournament, some of the more inexperienced runners wouldn't elect to go for stand-up glitch, even in situations like this. And it's because there's so many things that can go wrong with stand-up. But at the same time, it is kind of with this beam setup, basically 20 seconds that you can just save.
Well, it looks like he's not going to do it, so even though he didn't hear us talking about it, he actually put himself in a safer position than he would have been if he had gone for it. Now, again, you know, most likely if he had gone for it, he wouldn't have gotten soft locked and he would have been fine, but there's still that chance that you accidentally make a mistake somewhere.
Yeah. So, a couple questions showing up about what's the facing right thing about. And so, for anyone who's not familiar with the way the sprites are in this game, if Samus is facing to the right when she's forced into a crouching position, like with the Baby Metroid draining cutscene, when she stands up, there will be an additional 40 frames of animation if you're facing left versus if you're facing right. Basically, the programmers put in sprites for a facing left stand-up, but didn't put them in for a facing right, so she'll lock immediately into a standing position. You can start running around.
Also, just real quick, Maniacal, for anybody who doesn't know, Darko has put some pictures on the screen. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but that is Samus when she takes the suit off at the end of the new Metroid game. If you get the good ending. So I kind of hate that he spoiled that for everybody, but look forward to seeing that on your 3DS.
Yeah, I don't have a 3DS, so unfortunately, it's going to be a while before I can play that one. But it looks like this sprite has imparted rainbow powers. But both the runners on Mother Brain 2 and 3 at the same time. So for as crazy a race this has been, it's been very close. We'll see if Alucard goes for the stand-up. Looks like he's set up for it.
Yep, got it.
And yeah, he needs to damage himself there a little, maybe a little faster, but he had reserves. And so yeah, everything should be good here. And yeah, he is standing up. He got the first checkpoint okay. And with X-Ray, as long as he doesn't slide into Mother Brain or do something improper during the execution, he should have his stand-up glitch. Darko making his escape from Torian.
What a race this has been.
Yeah, this has been a great race. I want to take a moment to remind everyone, follow the runners. These guys play a bunch of games, not just Super Metroid, and they're good at so many games. But they've put on quite a Super Metroid race tonight, and hopefully there's 2 more games of this.
Yeah, it's even kind of hard for me to fathom. I mean, both of these guys are really, really good at Super Metroid as well, and it's just kind of like, I can barely play one game. I can't imagine playing multiple.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn a few different games, and I'm basically bad at all of them. But Darko has finished with the coveted time in SRL of 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 37 seconds. GG to Darko. Congratulations on the Game 1 win.
Yeah, great run by Darko there. You know, this particular race has been a really good example and sort of a microcosm of how randomizers are in general, because there's so many strange things can happen. Darko did a suitless Meridia, at least to checking one item. Even when he knew where gravity was, he did bowling twice. Vario was at Plasma, and he still won. because Alucard accidentally had a mishap with Fantoon. So you just really never know what's going on in these things until you get done. And you just kind of got to keep rolling and do the best you can.
And on Alucard's end, he played a great race.
He did.
Bounced back really well from that Fantoon death. Deduced that he should dive into Upper Norfair and got lucky, found his speed booster, and then was able to go up and get his gravity suit. A lot of stuff fell his way there, but he made some really great choices en route to enabling himself to get lucky like that.
I'm actually curious now what was that Norfair reserve tank, just because neither runner checked it. I wonder if it was screw attack or something that would have helped them if they had gotten it.
Yeah, we'll find out. There is, of course, the spoiler for the randomizer for all of the desirable major items, basically. It's not a full spoiler of all of the major locations, but it will tell you where all of the non-tank major items were located. But
yeah.
GG to Alucard2004 as well. He's finished up in SRL with an official time of 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 37 seconds. So exactly 2 minutes behind Darko on this first game. A really, really nice close race there for all the craziness that it had.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Maniacal, are you going to be in on the second game here?
No, I believe that Christofalo is going to replace me on commentary. I actually have some stuff I got to take care of this evening.
Okay, so real quick, ladies and gentlemen, both, race number 2 and if needed, race number 3 will be going back to back here for Darko and Alucard. They're going to play it out until we have a winner. But at this point, I'm going to step away and take a short break. Maniacal, it was a lot of fun doing the commentary with you, man. I'm glad we got a really interesting seed, and I'm sure I will catch up with you later.
That was a blast, Kip. Thank you so much for joining me on commentary. Had a lot of fun doing that. Hopefully again at some point. But good luck on commentary on the rest of this match. I'm sure you'll do a great job with Christofalo. It'll be a lot of fun to hear.
Thank you very much.
I guess before I dip out here, I'll say thank you to the chat. And also thank you to Ponk on tracking. Want to be sure to shout him out as well. He did a great job of keeping everything in order, despite that it's a little in disorder right now. And for Ponk, I'll throw out a Hirschcroft here for Darko.
Oh, and would you like to cover what you want to say? There was something that Ponk had talked to you about.
Oh yeah. So Ponk earlier, congratulations to him on his victory earlier today. He wanted me to relay something. The races with him and Seffi, winner take fish. He wants Seffi to know, and everyone to know, that he's going to allow Seffi to see the fish, but only on weekends. So I think that's a really kind thing of Ponk to do. And I told him
humanitarian, yes. And
I told him that I would be sure to extend that message.
Yeah, and big congratulations to Ponk. He had a really excellent match today with Seffi. Both he and Seffi are two of the better, really, in my opinion, best players in this rando tournament. So it was interesting to see them have to face off. So, even though it's not early, technically speaking, that's a potential Final 4 or Final 2 matchup. So really cool to see them race. And so Maniacal, going to take a short break. I will catch you later. Chat, I'll be back in a few minutes with Chris, and we'll be ready for game number 2.
All right, and I'm going to dip out at this point, and I will hand it over to the capable hands of Christofalo and Kip. But take it easy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like the runners are getting geared up for the next race here. Got to give a quick shout out to Darko with the Wii menu there. I always found the Wii menu to be very soothing and cool, so you turn it on and see all the cool virtual console games that you had there. And looks like he's got his modded to play some of these randomizers. Got a little bit of Mario 3 action. I will be joined this time on commentary by Christofalo. I don't know if I'm accidentally mispronouncing it. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, what's going on? You got it.
Do you mind if I just call you Chris for the remainder of the tournament?
I don't mind at all.
All right, cool, man. So how are you doing today, man?
So far, so good. I didn't actually manage to catch this last race. I did tune in at one point and watched Darko doing Suitless Meridia, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a really interesting circumstance. Basically, he went to wreck ship early, and when he got up to the top to check the reserve and gravity locations, he did not have speed, and gravity was at the wrecked ship reserve location. So he couldn't get it. And what he elected to do was test the waters and do at least the first Mama Turtle check, suitless. And so we ended up with a very interesting circumstance where he basically had to do the bowling Terizo twice, and then also did some suitless Meridia. So it was a pretty interesting set of circumstances.
Yeah, what a race. I'm just noticing the winner winning with a time of 1:13:37.
That's correct.
Yeah, so any race that lasts that long, usually something weird is going on there.
Yeah, and then Alucard, unfortunately, like he went down first and then made his way back up to wreck ship, but died to Fantoon. Fantoon trolled him pretty hard and wouldn't drop enough health for him, so that set him back a little bit. But overall, it was a really interesting race, and they were all over the place, but then they kind of both lined up at the same time, which was neat.
Yeah, it looked pretty close at the end there. That's awesome.
So let's talk for a second while we're in between games. Let's talk about the... Sorry, I'm laughing at something I see in chat. It says, Kip and Chris sounds like a failed 90s platformer. I'm flattered. Let's take a look at where the two runners came from in the brackets. If I recall correctly, I believe Alucard he had a bye in the opening round, or in the, I guess, the pre-round action, and then he defeated Hercules bench press 2-0 in the first round, and then fell to Farrell in the second round. And Farrell is obviously a really, really excellent Super Metroid player, the number 3 seed in the overall tournament. And Darko, let's take a look real quick. Looks like Darko started out in the losers bracket. I think he was defeated by possibly Endo Rush, if I recall. But then he, since then, has defeated Firebreaker and Menashne. So he's on a 2-game winning streak. So both of the runners have already played several matches and had some really great performances and success. But as we mentioned before, it's just kind of one of those unfortunate circumstances where at this point we have really good players that just, have to be knocked out, because that's just kind of the way it goes. Every time you have two good runners that are already meeting each other in the losers bracket, somebody has to stay and somebody has to go. So if Darko wins this one, Alucard will officially be out of the tournament. And if not, if Alucard wins this one, we'll have match 3 to determine who the winner will be.
Yeah, and we're getting to the point where the losers bracket is getting pretty scary. There's a lot of really, really exceptional runners who are in that bracket at this point.
It really is. It's really interesting to see how you have a lot of really good, not only like speedrunners of the game, but in particular randomizer runners in the game who are already in the losers bracket. Not because they're not good, but just because you're going to run into a lot of other good players and somebody has to lose. So I honestly believe at this point, there's not a